But this survey, I mean, it's, you know, they said that between 2013 and 2017, the reports of these suspicious activities quadrupled. That's how bad it's getting. So the word's getting out among all these scammers how this is like picking cherries from the tree or apples from the tree. It's so easy. You know, you just go and you just scam these older people. They don't know. They'll give you all their money and they walk away, and what do you have left? Nothing. You know, so we you know, it's so important. Now, I know we're still waiting for the district attorney to come, but I want, there's a couple things here, and one is this. All of you are here today, you're getting this message, you're hearing about this, and you're learning how you really have to be like remember King Solomon in the Old Testament? Remember the wisdom of Solomon? How he was so smart about making judgments. And remember what that, the two mothers that came in, and they were both claiming that this is our baby, and one was lying and one was telling the truth. And King Solomon said, okay, cut the baby in half, give half to her, give half to her. Right? And what happened? The real mother said, take the babies, to save the baby's life. And that's how the king knew who was telling the truth. Well, you all have to be like that as well, too. You have to have the wisdom of Solomon and make sure when you get these phone calls, if you get them like that, you don't give any money, you don't send any money. First of all, hang up or verify. Always verify. If you get a call, Johnny's in the jail, hang up. Call the parents. Where's Johnny at? He's probably at school. And he's safe. Everything's fine. And then you'll find out the truth. But don't fall for these scams. Always verify. If someone's saying that the police are taking up a collection to send money, hang up. Call the police department. And because the police department will want to know that somebody's doing these scams in their town. And at least then you can verify if it's truthful or not. But always verify. And here's the other thing. Be a good Samaritan. Okay? Now here's the catch. You probably all have other shut-ins that you know, or other friends that aren't here today. They're not going to hear this message. So promise me one thing. Would you please share what you learned here today with one other of your friends that's not here? And tell them that they need to be smart too, and don't fall for these scams. It's so important today. I mean, it's like I almost get down on my hands and knees and beg you, please be smart, please protect yourself. Because these scammers are waiting right outside that door. And they're waiting to get your money. You're going to get the phone calls, you're going to get the scams. And even at home with your family, you have to be careful there too and be smart. Because a lot of times it's, you know, someone in the family that's looking, that they might have, maybe you heard about this opioid crisis, right, that's going on? Maybe somebody in the family has a problem with that and they need money to buy those drugs. So hey, who's the best person I could get money from? Grandma. Try and, you know, and then here's what happens. Then you wind up saying, okay, well, we'll have Johnny be in charge of my money. Because he's the oldest. But just because he's the oldest doesn't make him, you know, the right one to give the money to and have him manage your money, because he might have an opioid addiction. So again, you have to be smart. You have to be wise. So please, protect yourself. Be smart about these scams. And also, in a you know, along the lines of what I was saying earlier, please share this information with another friend of yours that might be a shut-in or not able to make it today, so that they too can be safe. And you might be just saving them from losing thousands of dollars, okay? Promise me? Okay, thank you so much.
So how many of you either have been a part of a scam or know someone who's been scammed? Raise your hand.
We were going to get a phone call.
What was
get
your
a phone call?
You were
Try to
getting.
rip you off like the IRS or something.
So you got an IRS phone call.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you handle that?
Oh, I always hang up.
Yeah, hang up.
But I asked at work in case it was right, in case it was, and they said no, it was a scam.
How about you?
I got a phone call saying that, you know, grandma needed the money, blah, blah, blah. So I said, I was suspicious, and I said to him, "Can you say something in Armenian?" He had
There's
no-
a new one I haven't heard. That's great. They couldn't do it. That's perfect. That's good. Who else?
I had somebody call and tell me that they spoke with my husband and I was going to be putting on a new roof.
Okay.
And my husband wasn't around since January 9th.
So supposedly a roofer called you.
Yes.
And said, I spoke with your husband
Yes.
and we're gonna
Yeah.
put on a roof
Yeah.
and this is what it's gonna cost.
No, they didn't even get to that point. They just wanted to know if he was home and that they wanted to talk to him because so I said, unfortunately, he ran off with his secretary and he doesn't live here.
Good for you.
Well, he did run off. He's
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah, good for you. Yes, sir.
Here, take that.
Especially one, and I think some of them come from overseas because there were two people came on the line and they had like Pakistani or East Indian accent. And they said they noticed my computer was not working. And I don't know that was.
Tell me my computer
There
doesn't
is
work, we can
one-
fix it.
One
What's
very
your computer?
important thing that you should learn about with
I know.
this scenario is everyone's looking online and you're gonna get a pop-up on your computer that says you have malware, give us a call and we can fix it. How much was that, over $600?
Over $600.
Yeah. And you probably have no malware in there. You probably all have your security already on your systems, that security would recognize and delete all this malware and stuff. So that's a big, big scam. Personally, my father had that happen to him. And he called me and said, hey, this is what's going on. I said, no, Dad, don't do that, don't do that. 2 days later, it popped up again. He did it, and it was over $500. And I couldn't do anything about it. And they took his money, and that was it. His computer was not infected.
I had a rather unusual case happen last year. We had just purchased a new computer, and we were having trouble updating our website with the new program. And we called Adobe Live, who we purchased it. They wouldn't offer any support. But like a day later, a company called Edify called, and they offered to, to fix the website so that it was up to date and current, and offered lifetime support for $400. We paid the $400. They did the work, and it was working. In August, we got a phone call from the same company, which we found out was based in England, and they told us that they had installed obsolete software and that they needed to refund our money. And if we could give them, and we said, well, just credit our credit card because that's how we paid for it. And they said that would take 8 to 13 business days, and they would prefer to do a direct deposit. So my husband had a PayPal account that had less than $1,000 in it, and he reluctantly gave that number. To make a long story short, 20 minutes later, the guy calls back and says, I'm very sorry. Instead of crediting your account with $400, I accidentally credited it with $40,000. And you need to return this money because I'm going to lose my job. Well, then the red flags went up, and I said, we need to clarify, because he said he had put 40,000 in. I said, we need to clarify this with Country Bank. And so I called in the morning, and thanks to the vigilance of Virginia, who's the manager there, she did ascertain that there had been a $40,000 deposit, but it had been taken from another account of ours. And at that while they were doing it, you couldn't access your computer. They said not to do anything, and they had total remote access to all your information, all your bank, anything you do online, they were in control of.
That's why I don't want.
It was a costly repair at Post Computer to get that stuff cleaned up,
Yeah.
but that's how slick these guys were.
Had one up to
They
now.
didn't get a
What do I
penny,
need?
no.
That's good. District Attorney's here, so why don't we let him do his spiel? Because I know that you're a very busy man. Yes.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Excuse me. You're gonna get an extreme up close and personal shot right there. Thank you. How are you?
Hey, Andrew. Good to see you too.
Nice to see you. How are you? I'm sorry to disrupt this program here, but I had another event this morning and I have another event in Boston a little later. But I'm really pleased to be here and share my office's perspective on the issue of elder abuse and making sure that we prevent any sort of financial, physical, or otherwise abuse on senior citizens. So it's great to see such a nice crowd here. I want to thank the Wilbraham Senior Center for having us and thank Polish National Credit Union for everything it's doing for senior population. And as many of you know, I hope, the Hampden District Attorney's Office has worked very hard on the issue of elder abuse and preventing it. And Joan O'Brien is an Assistant District Attorney who's here with me today from the office who runs our elder abuse unit. We've really focused on prevention, and you've probably seen we focus on prevention on all kinds of issues, including addiction and opiate use and internet safety and all kinds of issues, and elder abuse is no exception. And we know that our senior citizens are more often becoming at least a targeted population by scammers and other folks looking to do things that are criminal and to profit from these kinds of abuse. So my office has worked very hard to focus on these kinds of cases. When they do come out, we have great relationships with our police departments and senior services to make sure that if there is some sort of abuse, physical, financial, or otherwise, we're going to bring that case through the system and do our best to make sure that criminal justice is the end result. But again, we've gone around and talked to populations of seniors about how they can prevent these kinds of issues from happening. And you know what we've talked about, which I think is a very shocking statistic, is that older adults lose an estimated $2.9 billion each year to financial scams. And I just got a call 2 weeks ago from a cousin whose mother was a victim. $8,500 she sent to somebody in God knows where. And he called me and said, you know, what can we do? And we tried to do something, but as you can imagine, this comes from potentially overseas, it comes from other parts of the country, and these people are smart enough, unfortunately, to sort of cover their tracks and make sure the phone numbers they're using aren't traceable and so on and so forth. So it happens to all kinds of people. As a matter of fact, about 2 years ago, when I told this little story when we were in Chicopee a few months ago, it happened to my parents. My dad is 80 years old, my mom is 76, and my dad got an email from actually a friend of mine who he knows rather well, and it was, I'm stuck in Canada or something like that, I need bail money. And this guy is like a choir boy, you know, so the idea that he got arrested and was held on bail was kind of silly to begin with, but my father, thank God, is very, very sharp, very with it. And he almost fell for it. And he told me a couple days later I was preparing to send this email back and figure out how I could help Michael. So it happens to all kinds of people. It's not a matter about which to be embarrassed or shy. We need to talk about it. We need to make sure that you folks know what to identify as potential scams and be ready to stay away from it. These scams are increasing, and I mentioned that $2.9 billion. That's profit for somebody. So these things are getting more and more frequent because they are profitable. These scams are occurring by telephone, face-to-face, and obviously through the internet as well. In 2017, 3.7% of all calls were scam calls. In 2018, 29% were scam calls. In 2019, we're projecting that almost half of all calls coming into your homes are going to be some sort of scam. That's shocking. That's shocking. So we have to be aware of this. Sometimes they'll even manipulate your caller ID, so if you have a phone that tells you who's calling, it may not be accurate. They may even use a local area code, so you see 413 and think, oh gee, this is a friend, this is a local business or whatever it might be, but they have the ability to manipulate those caller ID functions to fool you from believing that this is somebody from another country or another state. What we recommend is never give out your personal information over the phone or by email. Never give out your personal information. If you have a question, someone's claiming to be your niece, your grandson, or whatever it might be, say, I will call you back, give me your contact information, and confirm that. So call your son or your daughter, or whatever the connection is, confirm it before you give any personal information. The phrase that we like to say is never act alone or in haste. Never act alone or in haste. Meaning, if you're getting this outreach, if you're getting an email, you're getting a phone call, talk to somebody first. Talk to a child, talk to a friend, say, hey, does this sound right? Step back and never act in haste, meaning don't act quickly, because that's what these people will do. If they get you on the phone, they're going to say, ma'am, this is urgent. I need you to send me money right now. Your grandson is in big trouble. Your grandson is held on bail. Your grandson, whatever it might be. So always kind of step back and think these things through and talk with somebody. Think about it before you act. So never act alone, never act in haste. Scammers prey on your emotions. That's what they do. They're going to prey on your sympathy. They're going to prey on your love for a particular person. So step back before you never give out any personal information, but before you act, confirm it. Step back, make a phone call to someone you trust. If this is legitimate and you ask somebody for contact information, they'll give you that contact information. Sure, ma'am, call me back at this number. Step back and make a phone call. I can tell you right now, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the chief, but they're at your service. They work for you, just as the Hampton District Attorney's Office does. So if you have a question, call the Wilbraham Police Department, and you'll get an officer there who can help you. Tell you if it's legitimate or not, or say, ma'am, you know, I don't think that's the right thing to do at this point. They'll target your guilt. Sometimes you'll get these kinds of scams collecting money for hurricanes or floods or helping a police association. There was one recently where somebody was posing as a member of the sheriff's department for some sort of charity last week, and it was a scam. So you have to be careful about those kinds of things. They'll prey on your fear. They'll prey on your joy. You've won the lottery. We hear that a lot. You're not going to get a phone call saying that you won $1 million, but you've got to send me $5,000 to get it. It just doesn't work that way, all right? It does not work that way. So if you get something like that, hang up the phone, step back, never act alone, never act in haste. Never act alone, never act in haste. Simple guideline.